Retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive, love and alliteration, and retired Lieutenant Colonel at Defense Priorities. As always, we appreciate you being here. We like picking your brain when it comes to foreign matters here on Rush, so thanks for making some time. Listen, let's be honest, people are not necessarily infatuated or paying close attention. The 70th anniversary of NATO, it's not a kitchen table issue by any stretch. There are two subplots to this gathering. Number one, how does Biden interact with world leaders at a time where his health and acuity are being questioned, even by members of his own party? And two, there is genuine fear in Europe and around the world of what a second Trump term would mean in terms of how America deals with its allies and adversaries across the globe. Those are the subplots for today. What are you keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, like everybody else in the world, I'm really paying attention to what President Biden is going to do. They right now have him scheduled for a press conference at the end of the conference on Thursday, the first one he's done since November of last year. So obviously, especially given how things went with the debate last week with the ABC News piece that Friday, a lot of people are going to be watching this and not necessarily for all the right reasons, wondered if he's going to be able to get through it, much less any substance of what he has to say. But I mean, that you can't not pay attention to that because, you know, he set himself up in that ABC News piece as the running the world. And so people are going to say, wait, are you really running the world? And how's that going to work with, you know, our own Constitution, with NATO, et cetera? So that's one of the first things I'll be looking for.
And when it comes to the former president, Donald Trump, who could potentially be back in power this time next year, we mentioned that European countries, they're concerned with what that would look like. So can you walk our viewers through just Trump's track record with NATO and things that he has said that has caused that kind of red flag to be raised?
Yeah, you gotta be able to pick through both what he's actually said and what he's reported to have said. And I think a lot of the fears are not founded, because one of the things that Trump has emphatically said is that he wants NATO to, quote, pay its fair share. He has made a couple of incendiary comments like, you know, if they don't pay their fair share, Russia, they can do whatever they want to, and I won't, you know, defend them. I've talked to some people on the Trump campaign that say that's a rhetorical thing. He certainly doesn't mean that, and you know, it's an American issue anyway, so there's little chance that he would literally do that.
But wait, what makes you time out.
Yeah.
What makes you confident saying that, unlike every other American president, Donald Trump is a little more comfortable and a little cozier with Vladimir Putin than any other president in memory? We're a long way from Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall. So that's not a brush aside concern, how Trump would treat Russia and the war in Ukraine. That is a real issue. That's not overstated. So let's stick to the meat and potatoes.
That's a separate issue. How he would deal with Ukraine is a separate issue from how he would deal with NATO. We got to keep those two things clear, because how he would deal with NATO, we'll look at that first. He has said, I want them to pay their fair share, and that he does see value in it, but that he does want to see changes. Changes is different than getting rid of NATO, which he's been accused of. But on the issue of the Ukraine war, he is very clear that he says he sees no path to a victory for Ukraine, so it makes no sense to continue to support something that can't succeed. And he has a practical, pragmatic view of dealing with Vladimir Putin, and that is different than most others, but it's not cozy in that sense. It's like saying, hey, we have to acknowledge reality. And so if Russia has a more powerful force than Ukraine, it makes no sense to ignore that and pretend we can accomplish something that we can't, because that's not good for us.
He didn't acknowledge the election interference, but okay, we'll move on. Jay, your question.
Colonel, just in general, for viewers that don't follow the ins and outs of NATO, talk about its significance. This is the 75th anniversary, and as it pertains to what we're seeing with the war in Ukraine moving forward.
Yeah, you know, I think it's really important to look at both aspects of that. You just mentioned the history, 75 years so far, and when NATO was first formed, it was absolutely profoundly important, both for collective security in the West and American national security, because of the extraordinary threat, conventionally and nuclear, that was posed by the Soviet Union. Now, that went away in 1991, and so you have to look at, should we make some changes? Now, I will personally argue that expanding NATO after the collapse of what it was formed against might not have been the best idea, but right now, you had Nancy Pelosi in the Washington Post today publish a piece say that NATO is supposed to defend against, quote, the bulwark of tyranny. And that's not what NATO was supposed to be for. It's supposed to be collective defense against an identifiable threat. And if we start changing the conditions that it's now this theoretical thing instead of a militarily identifiable thing, we might get into the trouble where we have mission creep and we start to do things that are not in our defense. And I think that we're in that territory right now.
All right, you've retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis. As always, thank you so much for your time and your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.